Hey guys, welcome back to r/entitledparents. Imagine your own parents calling a SWAT team on your 30th birthday party because they think you don't deserve happiness. Picture armed officers bursting through your door, handcuffing you and your friends, all because your family wanted to destroy the one day that was supposed to be yours. Let's dive right into the video. So I am 30 years old. Growing up, I lived with my parents who are both in their 60s and my little sister Emily, who is 20. I don't like feeding into the stereotypes that younger children are spoiled and whatnot, because I think it's often overdone, but I cannot deny that my little sister is spoiled. For as long as I could remember, Emily has always been favored by my parents. The minute she was born, I was pushed aside. I was 10, and I guess my parents thought that I could be left completely on my own. While I had to beg for toys, and oftentimes I would not even be able to get them, my parents indulged Emily with anything she wanted. We were not scraping by for money, so it was not like my parents could not afford the toys, they just chose not to buy them for me. This by itself wouldn't have bothered me, but it's the fact that they gave my sister everything. This bias bled into other aspects of my personal life as well. If I had a performance, they would not attend because Emily had something else going on. If I'd been injured, they would tell me to walk it off while Emily was babied and coddled. By the time I reached high school, I came to realize that my parents did not care about me anymore, at least not as much, so I learned to be independent. Luckily, they were not strict with me because they cared so little, so I was able to get a job, get my driver's license, and live how I wanted to. Obviously, I was not crazy and partying every day or something like that, but I definitely had more independence because my parents were so focused on Emily. And honestly, I was surprised they did not miss my high school graduation. After I graduated though, I moved to another city for college and tried to forget my previous life behind. I had an amazing college experience where I met my now partner and the friends I consider family. I graduated with a bachelor's in education and I currently work at a high school with a myriad of kids. It has all in all been a great life so far. Ever since I moved to college, I've maintained less contact with my parents. Our relationship had already been strained when I was at home, and the divide between us only increased as the distance increased and time went on. I only reached out to update them on my life or to wish them a happy birthday, something like that. I cannot say they did the same for me though. Anyways, as I said, I'm 30, but I just turned 30 last month. It's a milestone birthday, so I decided along with my friends to have a big party to celebrate. It was not gonna be anything too crazy, just a gathering at my apartment. My parents had not attended a birthday of mine for a while, and I intended to keep it that way, knowing that they probably would not have wanted to attend anyway, but because it was a milestone, I decided to reach out and ask if they wanted to come. I first texted them, and when they didn't answer, I called them. It took about 2 or 3 times before they finally picked up. We had a bit of small talk before I finally invited them to the party. They said that they could not go because my sister's birthday party was that week. However, I found that odd because her birthday was 2 weeks from mine and I was celebrating my birthday on the day off. When I brought this up, my parents said that my sister wanted to have a birthday month. Honestly, I think I had been away from my family so long that I forgot how they functioned. My sister always made her birthday a week-long process, reminding everyone of her birthday up until the day off and making sure everybody congratulated her when it was the day off. It was always annoying, but I did not think that she would expand it to a month. I suggested that they move Emily's birthday to another day since hers was still a few weeks away from the date, but they refused. I was upset, but I accepted the fact that they were not going, so I just ended the call. However, they called me back a few hours later. I thought they had changed their mind or something, but my mom was demanding that I cancel my birthday party and attend my sister's birthday instead. Obviously, this was absolutely absurd. I asked if my sister even wanted me there, and my parents said that it wasn't her idea, but they wanted me to come. I did not believe any of it. I was sure that they were only saying that so I could cancel my party, but I don't even know why they hated the idea of having a party in the first place. When I told them that I was not gonna cancel my birthday party for my sister's, whose birthday once again was 2 weeks away, they said that I should cancel it because it was inconveniencing my sister and I did not deserve a party. I asked them what that meant and they said simply that I did not deserve happiness. Obviously, I was very hurt by this and I ended the call right away. I was crying a lot, but my partner was a gem in comforting me and reassured me that we wouldn't give in to my parents and that we would have the party with or without them. After a bit, I felt better. The day of the party started out as planned. I invited all of my friends and some close family members, like my cousins. We hung out at my apartment, watched movies, and played some board games and gossiped. At around 5, however, everything went haywire. We were in the middle of watching a movie when the door burst open. Immediately, we were flashed by a ton of lights. There was a lot of shouting and I was worried that it was a break-in of some sort. But then my mind registered the shouting and I realized they were commanding us to get face first onto the ground. Despite how panicked we all were, we followed the instructions, getting down on the ground and allowing the officers to handcuff us. They set us up after handcuffing us and I saw that all of them were holding rifles and had all sorts of weapons. They began going through my apartment, looking around. Meanwhile, the officers took us outside one by one and asked us questions. I cannot specify what they talked about, but they asked if I had ever used hard drugs, if I had any in the apartment. Of course, I said no to all their questions. After a while, everyone was interviewed and the apartment was deemed clear. The SWAT officers quickly concluded that we'd been swatted and apologized to us, letting us go. I asked them who made the call and they admitted that it was sent in anonymously. My partner suspected that it was my parents, but I thought there was no way they would do something so malicious. Still though, swatting is a serious offense and the officers were determined to find out who was responsible. In the end, they managed to trace the call and when they showed me the address later, my heart sank. It was in fact my parents' house. From what I know, the officers went to my parents' house and arrested them. Although I did not want to, we went to court. In court, I explained what happened, stating that I was simply having a birthday party with my friends and loved ones when the swatting accident happened. When my parents went on the stand, they admitted that they had called in the swatting to get back at me for being disrespectful and unloving. Apparently, they made the call claiming that I was a heavy drug user and that the party I was having was just so my friends and I could sell and use a ton of drugs. They claimed that I had drugs hidden in my apartment as well. Needless to say, my parents were quickly deemed guilty. My mother began crying in court and, for lack of a better word, began throwing a tantrum. She screamed about how they couldn't do this to her because they did not know how bad it would be. While the swatting was intense, nobody was harmed, so my parents only got 1 year in prison. After the swatting happened though, my friends and I were pretty shaken up for a couple days. It was not traumatizing per se, but I had a lot of one-on-one talks with my friends where we hashed out our feelings about the entire thing. It was a frightening experience, even if nothing bad really happened in the end. With the party ruined, I was just gonna cancel the birthday celebrations altogether. After all, my birthday already passed, and while the swatting did ruin the party, I still got to have a great time with my friends, so I'm not too upset about it. But my lovely partner and my friends actually threw me a birthday party at one of my favorite restaurants. My partner basically told me they had a surprise for me, covered my eyes and drove me to the restaurant. When I was there, I thought it was just for us two, but then my friends showed up. All in all, it was a lovely surprise and I could not ask for a better group of friends. My sister called me a few days afterwards and told me that she heard about what happened. To my surprise, she apologized for what happened and that she did not even know that our parents would do something like that. She admitted to me that she actually wanted to attend the birthday party because we had not seen each other in so long, but our parents would not let her go. And to that I asked, what about the birthday party? And my sister got confused, claiming she never had a birthday party planned for the same day and that would be dumb, because her birthday was so far from that day. We came to the realization that my parents most likely lied about having to attend Emily's party in order to avoid mine. We had a long talk after that, discussing the way we grew up and how things were. She apologized for our parents' favoritism, admitting that she liked it as a kid because they would always treat her nicely and buy her things, but as she grew older she realized that our parents were causing harm to our relationship. According to her, she had been meaning to reach out but could not find the courage to do so. However, the swatting had been the last straw. It made me realize that my sister was no longer the brat that I remembered, but a genuinely mature young woman. We admitted to each other that we hadn't been in contact for so long because we thought the other hated us, and now that couldn't have been more wrong. It saddens me that many precious moments I could have shared with my sister never happened because of our parents' favoritism, but hopefully that changes now. It also makes me sad that my parents have to spend a year in jail. I know they were horrible to me, but they're still my parents, so I still feel bad. However, a year will go by quickly and I know that it is 100% what they deserve. My sister and I decided to have a hangout soon for some quality bonding. We'll most likely be going to the mall to shop and eat dinner together. I hope this is the start of a renewed relationship for the both of us. And the next one is a fantastic revenge story that you probably have not heard before. It is titled "He Took Credit for a Key Company Initiatives" and it was posted on r/revenge stories, which is actually a new subreddit. So I will need to be a bit vague. Around 10 years ago, I was brought in to revive a failed company. 50 employees were reduced before I showed up to 3 to try to restructure it. It specializes in very custom small batch parts that require high precision. Mr. Bob was an employee I soon hired. Over 2 years, I led a complete restructuring, cut out unnecessary steps, invested in tech, and eventually we grew to $10 million in revenue and more, with a general goal of 100K of profit per employee going to the parent organization. It was successful for years. Bob was okay and he had a few skills. He was not great, and to maintain our goals he needed to go. I warned Bob that he had 2 months to find a new job, that I would give him a good review for what he was good at, but not for what he was bad at. He would need to maintain a good output of what he was good at, or we would have to let him go right away, but would be flexible for interviews, etc. To Bob's credit, we saw no decrease in effort, although low bar, and he finds a job at a company we partnered with, did not use me as a reference. That was good for Bob. Years later, I fly out to visit the partner. To my surprise, Bob greets me with my main contact Charlie. Happy enough to see Bob, we shake hands, catch up quickly, and then Charlie goes on to say how lucky I was to have had Bob because of all the transformative things he did. Really got us out of a mess. Which of course was all the things I did and Bob was not good at. Charlie added a small, well, OP helped. I was shocked. Angry, I said nothing other than well, I'm glad Bob found a good fit. Years pass, I bump into Bob occasionally, it is performative, I leave the company, onto my next adventure, the company does okay in my absence, pandemic and other events knock the entire industry around, but I left the company in good hands and it does okay. I remain friends with the new general manager that I hired. Bob loses his job and surprised he kept it as long as he did. He then applies to my former company for a prestigious role. The GM calls me to ask about Bob, they did not overlap, asks about Bob's claims of all the transformative things they did, is ready to hire them. I tell the truth. So, Bob does not get the job. Karma is sometimes real, but it is not always efficient. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Yes, I'm disabled, but I'm still a teacher. Posted by user Chronic Complex Case. So I'm now retired, but I used to be a teacher. I'm also a wheelchair user. So I was very lucky to work in a school with a very understanding head teacher who treated me like any other employee and did everything she could to accommodate my needs without treating me any differently. I specialized in SEND, special education needs and disabilities, and as part of my job, I would attend meetings with other professionals linked to certain students. Think social workers, other in-school staff like the SENCO, special education needs coordinator, therapists, youth workers, and council staff linked to education, etc., along with parents, carers, foster parents, etc. Some of these meetings would be at my school and some off-site. My head would always offer up a meeting room at our school because the school was fully accessible and I didn't have to worry about driving to and finding accessible parking and then worrying about the building being fully accessible, etc. The majority of the time, everyone not from my school was more than happy as we were centrally located, had a large free car park and did good catering with a proper coffee machine and nice fruit platters and pastries instead of the usual, a pack of stale digestive biscuits and cheap instant coffee. So basically a win-win all around. Anyway, one day I had a meeting with a new student who we will call Fred, who was gonna be joining my class. I was liaising between the various people involved in the meeting, which included Fred's social worker. They were then liaising with Fred's foster parents as I didn't have their contact info. I knew the social worker from other students and she knew that we would have the meeting at my school and why, and was more than happy for this. She often joked that she wished she could have all her meetings here, even for pupils not at our school, because of the nice coffee and fruit platters. And we arranged it all. Day of the meeting and I'm alerted by reception that my guests were there. I roll off to meet them, and before I can even approach the foster parents, the other people involved in the meeting had not arrived yet. They were ranting at the receptionist on how ridiculous it was that they had to come here and couldn't have had it at the council office. All because, supposedly, someone in the meeting had a disability, said using air quotes, and it was easier for them to have it here. Ranting about how stupid this was to pander to people like this, how people will make up disabilities to be the center of attention, and how it was getting worse and never like this in the past. They were in their 60s. The poor receptionist is trying to get a word in and spots me, and looks embarrassed knowing that I've seen and heard this, but I don't care. So I roll over and introduce myself as Fred's new teacher, and before I can say anything else, I'm interrupted by the woman as she says, "Don't be stupid, you're not his new teacher. You cannot possibly be a teacher if you're a wheelchair." Not wheelchair user, just wheelchair something I sadly get a lot when people, for example, would say, "A wheelchair wants to come in," like I am an inanimate object and not actually a human, but anyway, I digress. And then turns to the poor receptionist and goes, "Can you let the teacher know we are here?" And turns to her husband and goes, "Phone the social worker, this is ridiculous." Poor Fred at this point has his head in his hands and looks so anxious and shy, like he wants to disappear. I lift my lanyard and staff badge to the woman and reply, "I can assure you that I'm Mrs. Complex Case, Fred's new teacher, and that my legs not working had no effect on my ability to be a teacher, and that they too are not mutually affected by each other." At this point, the social worker, the educational psychologist, and another worker, speech and language if my memory serves me right, walks in and the foster mother goes, "Oh, thank God you're here. None of you look disabled, so why you insisted on us having the meeting here for that reason is beyond me." Turning to her husband and the receptionist saying, "I told you, people make up all sorts of disabilities nowadays and want everyone to pander to them. It's getting worse and worse," before returning to the social worker and continuing with, "Also, Fred's teacher has not arrived yet, but she," rudely thrusting her finger in my face, "is trying to say that she's his teacher when she clearly cannot be. Well, look at her." Giving me a rude glare and up and down, if looks could kill assessment. The social worker, shocked, replies, "I will remind you now that you are both new foster parents, so you are subject to frequent reviews to assess your suitability for the job." Foster mom butts in and goes, "What do you mean? We are here and agreed to come to the school to accommodate one of you apparently having a disability that I cannot see." Social worker sighs and goes, "Well, insulting Mrs. Complex Case and all disabled people is not really a great first impression." Mrs. Complex Case is indeed Fred's new teacher, who by this point was trying his hardest to merge into the sofa he is sat on so as not to exist in the reception area anymore. Because wheelchair users can be teachers. Foster mom tried to butt in at this point, but the social worker held her hands up to silence her, which makes the foster mom get even more red in the face and carries on talking. Plus, the school is actually closer to your house than the council offices. It also has free abundant parking, unlike the council offices, and best of all, it has amazing coffee and refreshments. You're lucky to get a mug of brown coffee flavored water and an unbroken stale rich tea at the council office. Unlike here, where we will get proper coffee and, turning to me, I assume we have one of the most amazing fruit platters and a tray of pastries for the meeting, right? So having the meeting here benefits all of us, not just being more accessible for Mrs. Complex Case. Before the foster mother can utter a reply, the social worker ushers us all to the meeting room. The poor receptionist had signed them all in during this, later saying that she felt so much secondhand embarrassment and anxiety she needed something to do, and kept apologizing for not doing more, which I kept reassuring her she did nothing wrong and you get a thick skin when disabled to start the meeting. The meeting went well. We tried not to let the mom say much. The educational psychologist said something like, "This meeting is more for us to discuss with Fred directly our plan to help him transition with these new changes and ensure he is happy and safe." And so everything was directed at Fred and seldom at his foster parents. I got very curt sorry from the mom at the end of the meeting, followed by a, "But you can see how I was confused. It's very odd to see someone like you actually working, and especially in a job like this that requires a degree." I laugh and go, "Wow, next you'll be telling me that I cannot drive or vote or get married and, live a normal everyday life." The father said a more apologetic sorry, but I got the feeling that she very much is in control of that relationship and his life would not be worth living if he had said anything else. The other professionals in the meeting looked more concerned for the couple being foster parents and exchanged glances at the end with me like, I cannot believe I've witnessed all of this. In the meeting at the start, the psychologist said that he had worked with me a number of times and how lucky Fred was for having me as a teacher, as I was very good at my job and would soon have him settled and caught up in a loving school, which I think I had angered her more too. Fred looked very sorry and also embarrassed at these new foster parents treating me like they were. Luckily for him though, a week later he was removed from them and placed with a lovely couple who had fostered another student of mine in the past. He flourished with them and myself at the school and was a delightful student to have. Honestly, he had been dealt some awful cards in life and despite all of that was a lovely child. I often wonder what he's up to now and hoped his biological parents had not won custody back. Which I know sounds weird wishing such a thing, but they caused him so much psychological and emotional trauma that took a long time to overcome. And the next one is another I Do Work Here Lady story. And by the way, if you enjoy these I Do Work Here Lady stories, then please don't forget to like the video and let me know in the comments that you like this. Thank you so much, and now let's continue with the story. So I am a judge in Germany. When I was in my second year, I happened to be transferred to a local court called Amtsgericht in a rural area, and one of my responsibilities was deciding about closed accommodation for mentally ill people. Often, the public order office would take someone who, for example, had a psychotic breakdown to the local psychiatric hospital and apply to the court to decide about the closed accommodation. I then would drive to the clinic for the hearing. This would have to happen on the same day or at least within 24 hours. The hearing would also be attended by a psychiatrist to inform me about the mental condition of the person concerned and by a lawyer to protect their rights. This procedural role is called a Verfahrenspfleger. There were 3 or 4 lawyers in the area, one of them would attend their hearings on a certain day of the week. The lawyer was informed by the court office about the time and location of the hearing. Sometimes, despite this being a quiet rural area, there would be several hearings on the same day. When the following story happened, I just transferred to this local court, so I didn't know yet the local lawyers and they didn't know me. I had scheduled 2 or 3 hearings that day. It was a cold and rainy day and therefore I was wearing a warm jacket and a leather hat, a kangaroo leather hat by Barma. Not a very judge-like appearance, but waterproof, and these hearings are no formal court sessions. No one wears a suit or judge's robes there. However, I arrived at the clinic a few minutes early. The lawyer was not there yet, so I waited for him at the counter within the closed section of the hospital after I had told them why I was there. The lawyer arrived on time and proceeded to the counter. I, standing nearby, heard him say, Rechtsanwalt aka Lawyer XY, I'm here as Verfahrenspfleger for the hearing with the Amtsgericht. So I approached him and said, great that you're here, you have the hearing with me. He looked at me still wearing my hat and he probably thought, oh, yet another weirdo in the closed ward, and asked for my name. I told him my last name, assuming he would have read my name in his documents. He checks his list and, I don't have your name here, maybe the court has scheduled another hearing, but we will know when the judge arrives. Just then I realized he thought I was a patient. At the court we had often joked about getting mistaken for a schizophrenic person, believing to be a judge and not to be allowed to leave the clinic after the hearing. For a moment I thought that was now happening to me. Luckily, when I said, oh no, sorry, I'm the judge here, he instantly believed me and I did not have to spend the day in the clinic waiting for myself to arrive. I also did not have an official judge ID card at the time, as it usually was enough to carry court files and tell people that I was a judge, but I made sure to get one after this incident. And now another I Do Work Here Lady story. So back in 2021 I was working as a gas station attendant. I was 20 at the time, waiting for my coworker to get back from her lunch, and then these customers, in a little Kia toaster car, pull up to one of my further pumps. A sketchy-looking lady in her late 30s walks up to the window and asks to put $5 on her pump. Simple enough, I worked in a self-serving state, so I just let her do her thing. Did not realize until they were about done that their car was still running. Darn, at my gas station when you bought gas, no matter how much, you got complimentary air at the air compressor. Buy $1 worth of gas and get $1.50 worth of pressurized air for free. The lady came back up and asked if I'd turn the air on for them, of course. But there's a button on a remote I had to press as well as a button on the machine itself that they were supposed to press. They did not understand when I said to press the little silver button on the bottom of the left side. Equally looking sketchy guy in like his 40s walks over from the air pump and asks me how to get it started. I leave my little kiosk and walk to the other side of the pumps to the air compressor, turn it on for them and show them how it works, and start to walk back to the kiosk. Out of nowhere, 4 squad cars pull up on surrounding us. Cop tells me to stop and put my hands up. I put my hands up and say, I work here. The cop was skeptical about it. Keep in mind I'm a person of color, it's 2021 and I was wearing a black hoodie with reflective designs on the front and back, my hair was covering most of my name tag, and another cop walks over and starts patting me down asking if I had any weapons on me. I do not. I'm at work and I don't carry anything on me at work. Lie. I had a pocket knife because I took public transportation, but thought it was in my purse. He gets to my arms and moves my hair slightly and saw my name tag. Oh, you do work here? Okay, go back inside and do your job. I nodded and started heading back, and then another cop stopped me and asked what I was doing. I was told to go back to work because I work here. Showed my name tag. You work at the pumps? Oh, okay, go back to the pumps. Kiosk, he meant kiosk, and once I get back in, I texted my coworker, a 63-year-old, 5'0" lady, that I just got patted down by cops, so she came back still on lunch to ask what happened and if I was okay. I told her everything and then she double-checked on me before leaving to finish her lunch. Shortly after she left, I had a line form, and then the cop that patted me down got in that line and waited to apologize to me for the misunderstanding, major respect for that, and explained that the customers had stolen that vehicle from a family member, family friend, and it got reported stolen and they thought I was with them. I dressed very casually at work, so I didn't blame them. Before we end the video, we will read one last funny story from r/petty revenge. This one is titled, I stole from a shopping cart. Though this happened a few days ago at a grocery store, I was waiting patiently in my lane, and beside me was the priority lane for senior citizens, PWDs, etc. There were a couple of elderly people sitting on the chairs provided specifically for them while waiting for their turn. Pretty normal setup. Now, some guy casually walks up and cuts right in front of the seated seniors. I speak up and say, hey, they're already in line. And this guy, without even looking at me, goes, I don't see them standing in line though. Real smug, real dismissive. The elderly folks looked uncomfortable, but did not want to cause a scene. So I shut up and I simmered. A few minutes later, we are still in the lanes and I notice his cart is stacked with what looks like camping gear, such as sleeping bags, paper plates, marshmallows, instant noodles, a portable stove, etc. And there it was, a single can of butane gas. And right there, I saw an opportunity. The guy's blabbering on the phone, totally distracted, so I casually leaned over, plugged the butane from his cart, and slid it into mine. He did not notice. He checked out and left. I paid for my stuff, including his butane, and walked away. Somewhere out there, this man arrived at his campsite, probably boasting about how smart and quick he is, and when he tried to fire up that portable stove, no gas, no hot food, no coffee, just crunchy noodles and the sweet taste of consequences. Hopefully. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.